Kia ora internet,
Hello and welcome
to another podcast from Sky Bear Games.
Whoop whoop, episode 9. Hopefully a better one than a certain other franchise that hit 9 episodes. Saying no names.
Saying no names. I'm James.
I'm Claire.
And this week we're going to be talking about our all-time great games.
Yeah, we just need a little tiny bit of a break. We're a little bit stressed preparing for Armageddon next week. So we just need a tiny little, easy episode. One that doesn't involve a lot of research, because this is about our subjective all-time faves. Just us as, individual beings.
So this is one role-playing game each, one board game each, and one computer game each. Though in practice, they're kind of shared.
Our likes are quite overlappy. It's a nice thing, being married and having such shared
Someone
interests.
who likes the same things that you do.
Yeah, and not every married couple needs that, but we seem to do pretty well.
It works quite well for us.
It does, yeah. All right,
So enough flirting, let's start.
Go ahead.
So we're going to start with our two top role-playing games. So Claire, what is your favourite role-playing game?
Wait, which one is mine? Wait, no.
They're kind of shared.
Yeah. Let's start with the big one. Let's go with the big one.
The big one.
The big one, yeah.
So our all-time greatest RPG is King Arthur Pendragon,
Woo!
which was first released in 1985
Really?
by Chaosium, and is the magnum opus of Greg Stafford.
Represent.
So there's lots of role-playing games which are about being anything you want to be. You can play in the whole kitchen sink. You can do anything with this. But I always feel that it's better to have a game that drives you towards a particular goal, that represents one thing really well. And Pendragon is just the gold standard here.
Absolutely.
It is all about being a knight in King Arthur's court and emulating the Arthurian romances like Le Morte d'Arthur. Well, what are some of the things that make it so good?
Okay, so for me, it was one of the earliest other role-playing games that I played besides Dungeons and Dragons. Now, to be fair, you introduced me to both. Well, I mean, I sort of introduced myself to Dungeons and Dragons, but you were the first, GM I ever came to.
Yeah.
That wasn't me trying to GM for my friends.
It's a very hard thing to just
with no
GM
experience.
straight with no exposure.
Yeah, so after having met you in the store and we played Dungeons and Dragons and we were friends and we even played the Star Wars Saga, D20 Saga before that, but then you invited me to play Pendragon, and the first thing that instantly grabbed me was that my personality traits were there in front of me as set up as a dichotomy.
And that they matter.
Yeah.
I like how D&D 5th edition has the personality rules, in as much as it's more than any other edition of D&D has ever had. Mm-hmm. But in Pendragon, your personality is such a fundamentally important part of the game.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take control of your actions away from you because you volunteer.
That sound was Nim coming into the room, by the way.
Our cat has entered the room.
Who's called Nimue, which is an Arthurian character. And our son is called Arthur. There seems to be a running theme.
There's a bit of a theme here. So your personality, what you believe in, is just as important or more important than
what you do. Absolutely. And yes, it doesn't take control, but if you set your character up with extreme personality traits, then sometimes you can, as the GM, you can set them up and well, really, shouldn't your character be super honest right now? I know you want to lie, but honesty is...
Since you volunteered to be an honest character in the first place, since you took the actions to become an honest character and you've cultivated honesty.
Yeah, the habit is there.
You've got that buy-in from the players immediately. And it also helps, we've been talking about it when we've been doing Apprentice of Tyrrenia, it helps you to resolve what your character feels in particular things.
Yeah, I really feel like to save my own skin, I should lie in this moment, but... I am a really honest character, so I roll a d20 and whatever side of my dichotomy it lands on. So obviously, if I'm honest, there's a much higher chance of it. I have to stick to my honest guns. But there's always a chance that I can do the little deceitful plan.
And the rules actually say if you want to go against your characteristics, go for it. You'll just lower your characteristics.
Yeah. That's great.
To me, though, the whole point of this is it's about the dichotomy that you find in the literature of the struggle between being chivalrous and being religious.
Are you the chaste knight or the lustful knight? Are you generous or greedy?
What set of ideals do you want to live up to? So it does a really good job at simulating that. The mechanics are super smooth, really easy. It's just a d20 roll under your stat. The higher you can get without going over your stat is what you're trying to get. So it's kind of like blackjack.
It's so much fun.
But there's also things like there's the passion system, there's the family heritage that you roll for, so that when your character...
You get massive buy-in for that.
Yeah, when your character comes up against the Saxons or against the Picts, you know what your history is with them. You know that your grandfather fought here. When you meet a new player character, you can say, oh, my grandfather fought at this battle, and they can say, my grandfather fought there too. And so you have this shared heritage and buy-in. And as a result, I don't think I've ever seen or heard about a Pendragon group of murder hobos in the same way that you do in D&D, because you're so anchored to your people, your family, your responsibilities, your land.
You're not just some orphans who rock up into an adventure like a lot of D&D characters are.
Vitally connected to what's going on in the world around you.
You are from this place. Your family is from here. You grew up here.
And of course, the other huge innovations that they'd introduced was that every session represents 1 year in game time, and so you get to see your character evolve and grow over time, not just during their violent exploits, but you get to see the rest of their lives. You get to see
winter
them
phase.
marry, you get to see them have children, you get to see your children die.
You manage your estate.
You attend court, you go to feasts. Your character gets old, they start to atrophy, maybe with aging rolls, maybe you let your heir take over as your character gets old, or maybe you gun for a glorious, heroic death so that you can earn as much glory as you can for your character and pass it on to their children.
We are going to have to do an episode on this.
Purely on Pendragon, we have so much we could say about it.
Absolutely, and just the stories. This game, just you spin such humongous yarns. Like, we have so many stories we could tell about
the campaign for Pendragon is 85 years long.
You know what? I just remembered. This is the campaign. Remember, you asked me like, who scares you more, this villain from Doctor Who, or this like badass lady in Pendragon? And I said to you, just completely like not even consciously, I just said, oh, badass lady from Pendragon because she's real. And then I had to stop and be like, wait, what did I just say? Of course she's not. She's a character we just made up. But like, she had become so real to me that I thought she was a real woman in history.
There's so much scope to explore the history and the culture and the folklore, and of course the Arthurian mythology is one of the richest, most developed and most intrinsic ones for all the world at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the big
King Arthur
cycles.
Pendragon, one of the greatest role-playing games of all time, the greatest in our opinion.
Yeah, we will do a big episode on that later. But let's talk about our other... And so, like, this one's complete contrast. This one is one of our... We really love small indie role-playing games that do something really unique.
Pendragon is great if you've got huge amounts of time that you can really invest into it and sink into it. But if you want something short, snappy for a one-off, then Fiasco is amazing.
You've got to go in with the attitude of, like, my character is going to come to a bad end. With both of them, actually. With both Pendragon and Fiasco sometimes.
Actually.
But Fiasco, definitely.
Fiasco is about doing a heist or a crime movie, generally, in the style of the Coen brothers. A little bit funny, a whole lot of flawed characters who make bad decisions and are going to come to a sticky end.
Yeah, it's sort of like in a moralistic fairy tale way sometimes.
So, Fiasco has no GM. You take turns going around the table, framing scenes between you and another character.
It often relies on tropes and genres.
So you start off the game by setting up the relationships between your characters, what they all want, what they're trying to get from each other, what the important places and objects are, and then the game goes through these series of scenes where you work towards your goals. Then halfway through the game, something happens to destabilize the situation further. And then finally you find out what terrible things have happened to your characters. The best you can hope for is to escape a little bit sadder and wiser, really.
Yeah.
One of the things that gives Fiasco such wonderful replay value is that there's a huge number of different playsets that you can use it with. So the defaults are things like small town America, a research station in the Antarctic,
The Wild West. But there's a near infinite amount of other plugins for it that you can use. Fan-made ones. You can make ones yourself.
It's very easy to make them ourselves. In fact, the first time we ever played Fiasco, I wound up making a gothic horror themed one, and we had two very, very different stories. One was very Wuthering Heights, and the other one was about a dysfunctional family of Dr. Frankenstein.
It was like a Cartoon Network horror thing.
Oh, it was very bloody.
Yeah. Maybe Adult Swim.
Yes.
Not Cartoon Network.
But yes, Fiasco is a wonderful game. It changes the way in which you think about how role-playing games work by having such a different dynamic and relationship between the players. And every time I played it with people who are experienced role-players or new role-players, it's always been a blast and told very different stories.
And stories you remember too. Yeah, I always remember every game I've played of this.
I am the captain.
Oh, that twist! That
Little
surprise
in-joke there.
twist. Yeah.
So yes, wonderful game. Highly recommended.
Maybe we should do a live stream of it one day.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah,
yes.
Get together a crew and do it. Because it's such a good game.
Yeah, you only need 3 to 5 people, and it's super fast, super easy, very cheap. The second edition has just been released, which comes in a big box set, but the first edition is still wonderful and everything.
You can get the PDF for cheap, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.